I'm Danny Gasparini. Welcome to this segment of Pen Voice. I'm joined today by Tony Gapastione, who is the creative director and founder of BraveMaker. Tony, welcome.
Thank you.
I've been wanting to have you on the program for so very long. I just had the pleasure of seeing one of your BraveMaker films, but before we go into that kind of detail, tell us a little bit about BraveMaker and what made you decide to start a company.
Yeah, well, a year and a half ago I was feeling antsy to do something new. I had been working with the same organization for about 20 years and felt like my creative itches were just like all over the place and I needed to scratch them. And so I jumped off into this new endeavor because I love film so much. I'm a filmmaker myself. Writing and directing film has been a passion of mine for the past 6-7 years. And BraveMaker came to me as I was thinking, what could I do next? Well, I want to make films, but those often take a long time to get off the ground. So what can I do while I'm doing that as I could support other filmmakers? So BraveMaker came to be when I thought, to make a film, you have to face your fears. You have to get over all the negative self-talk, the self-hatred, and be brave. And so BraveMaker was birthed, and I thought, let's do a film festival. That's an easy way to do it. We'll do a one-year annual thing, right? And then it just sort of snowballed into what it is today, a monthly film screening and summer film festival.
So do you typically then search the world for short films? What do you look for when you want to feature a film in one of your BraveMaker film fests?
Yeah, so because there are so many film festivals, I mean, all around the world, but let alone the Bay Area, I think someone told me there's over 120 film festivals in California, right? So why add to that? Do we actually need another film festival? And my argument was, yes, we need another film festival, specifically in the Bay Area to target brave voices, okay, but also underrepresented storytellers, people who are not able to get, like they're trying to crawl to the top, and being an artist in general, especially in the Bay Area, is so tough to live, to make it, to survive, let alone thrive, right? So we started BraveMaker because we wanted to find women, people of color, the LGBTQ community. We wanted to find those underrepresented stories that maybe don't always get a place in the huge Cineplex, right? So we're telling stories that have to do with justice or spirituality or injustice. Like we have a whole block around racism. Like we want to tell stories that wake us up to the realities that people of color are suffering here in our country. So we look for stories that might not always be in the mainstream. We look for stories that are by storytellers that you don't always see, that they don't always get the face time that they deserve. And so those are who we're going after. You
know, you said something interesting, and I'm going to go off script for just a second. I hope you don't mind. But
bring it.
But funding is a huge part of one's ability. Now I'm talking about the filmmaker. To tell their story. It's an expensive endeavor, as we know here at Pen Voice, being a public broadcasting studio. So one, they're brave to want to tell their story, but two, to make the leap that they could actually fund their story. And then you to be able to share the story, there's a lot of funding that needs to come from there. How does everybody find that?
I mean, it's a hustle. It really is. I mean, I've made like a handful of my own films, and without a supportive network of people around me to help me do it, there was no way I could have accomplished those films. So it really takes a lot of putting aside that fear of going, I have to ask for help. Like that's hard, to ask for help and say, I need help, I can't do this on my own. Many artists are very well, they're connected to that word struggle, the struggling artist, which we don't want attached to our identity, but the reality of the fact that you have to go a long time with, you know, like putting food on the table. Like, you know, there's a joke about the ramen, like eating and being very comfortable with eating ramen, right? You have to be willing to put aside the idea that being a filmmaker / artist, whatever, is the red carpets all the time, because that's not it. Well, it's living in the trenches.
The program that I just viewed on unconscious bias with BraveMaker, I would imagine there's not a whole lot of underwriting and commercialism that wants to happen with associating yourself with something like that, because it is really telling the ugly truth. And it's not like you can go sell it to the XYZ corporation down the road, because these are oftentimes the tough conversations that don't sort of lend to that general Google funding, or perhaps not Google, because they do want to fund the tough conversation. But I would imagine when it's a conversation that isn't commercial, that isn't easy, it even makes funding of those films and then also the viewing of those films very difficult.
Yes, you're nailing so many things on the head, because the film industry is a business. It's show, it's business. We want to show, we want to tell our stories, we want to be artsy, but at the same time, we have to find a way to make them commercially viable. We have to find a way for the people who are giving and supporting and investing to feel as if they're getting some return on that investment. And that's a hard tightrope to walk for artists. That's why BraveMaker is here, is how can I'm learning myself. I always felt, Danny, that I had wished, some fairy would grant my wish, and make all of my film dreams come true, but that's not how it works. I had to be willing to, roll up my sleeves and make it happen and ask for help and learn a lot of the hard ways. So I'm trying to help pass that on through BraveMaker in one small way, like just to say, hey, we see you, especially here in the Bay Area, filmmakers. We want to support your work. We're trying to get you an audience. I'm trying to help you tell your story, and then hopefully tell your next story. So every time we have a film screening, like with the one that you came to earlier this year, the filmmaker Robin Hauser, after we filmed, after we screened her film, I said to the audience, now support her film, yes, tweet about it, share about it, but also she wants to make another film. So if any of you were tugged in any way emotionally to this work, talk to her after, because that's what I'm trying to do, help people.
Well, and that comes into this whole new idea of crowdsourcing, and that there doesn't need to be just one funding source, that we can all be part of BraveMakers. We can contribute to your organization and allow you to then give this voice, or this platform, if you will, to other filmmakers and artists who are telling a very compelling story. So what's in the future? So tell us, what are some of the storylines that you're interested in bringing to our community? Yeah,
so every month you will, if you come to one of our screenings, you will encounter something that's really hot, a hot topic in culture, something that's relevant. So we could be talking about immigration. We could be talking about gender equality. We could be talking about LGBTQ+ rights. We're planning a big event later in the year about suicide prevention by a documentarian who lives in Palo Alto, went to school in Palo Alto, and basically is telling the stories of the epidemic of cluster suicides happening in Palo Alto. So we are really passionate about helping model to our community how to have compassionate dialogue. Doesn't mean we always have to agree. How do we even have these conversations in which we have conflict, whether it's a political conversation or a spiritual conversation or a gentrification conversation. We want to show a film, engage with a filmmaker, but also bring other community leaders and justice advocates to the table, so that those hundreds of people who come to those film screenings can model, hey, we might not agree, we're gonna have a film screening on veganism. That kind of scares me a little bit, because I feel compelled to want to know about how to eat healthy and have compassion for animals.
But do you really want to know?
Yeah, but do I really want to do that, right? So I might be saying, I'm in a different side of this conversation, but let's engage in a really healthy and compassionate way.
Well, I think that's what also is very different with your organization, BraveMaker. Not only do you debut the film at, and it could be anywhere, at either a local cinema, you've done Fox Forum, other venues in San Mateo County, but you also have a dialogue after the film where the audience gets to engage with the filmmaker and perhaps some of the individuals that were in the film, as well as yourself, and some other people who maybe are on the periphery of the discussion. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with that whole concept.
Yeah, I had been a part of some really amazing experiences in my filmmaker life. For instance, I'll give huge shout out to the Sundance Film Festival, because I went there in 2013 for the very first time, and I really, it sounds so funny and bold to say this, but my life was changed going to this film festival, because there was 120 films in 10 days. Didn't get to go to all of them, of course, but you watch the film and then you engage with the filmmaker, and it's a shorter amount of time, 10 minutes. But the fact that I could be waiting in a line and then talking to the very person who made that film afterward was mind-boggling to me, to be able to shake the hand of the creator and say, why did you make that film?
Right.
And this is my favorite part. The filmmaker wouldn't always have all the answers, because as the artist, this is like, you know, so abstract, but the artist philosophy is like, well, I was dealing with these questions myself. I wanted to explore what questions I had, and now I'm just putting that out onto the world. I'm not saying you have to believe these things or align with my message, but I would like you as the audience to also have the permission to question as well. And I thought, that's what I want to bring back to Redwood City.
I want to make sure that you tell everyone, how do they find out about what's on the docket for you and BraveMaker, and how do I get involved? How do I buy tickets?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit, so bravemaker.org. You can also go to bravemaker.com, either one works. And there's a list of all of our events, all of our film screenings, and you can buy tickets right off of that site right there.
Okay, and if they want to help contribute future filmmakers, they can do the same.
Oh man, we would love the support of companies or individuals to help us rent the venues, help filmmakers make their stories come to life, and also just keep getting the word out. So go to bravemaker.com, and there's a little ticket, little button to go ahead and donate right there, and they can donate, and it's all tax deductible.
Tony, thanks so much for coming on Penn Voice and telling us all about BraveMaker.
Thanks for having me.
BraveMaker Films. Hopefully you'll have a lot of Penn Voicers at your next film. So thanks to all of you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Penn Voice.